We welcome you to the second episode of Echoes of the Coromandel. In this episode, we will be discussing about navigation and trade routes. When we talk about India's maritime history, we often focus on traders and travelers arriving through the western coast, which had strong connections with Rome, the Middle East and Africa. But what about the eastern coast? What was happening there? What role did it play in maritime trade?
That's right. The eastern coast of India, particularly the Coromandel coast and Odisha's coastline, played a crucial role in maritime trade. Historian Sheila Tripathi, a leading researcher in Indian maritime history, has extensively studied the evidence of early seafaring from this region. His research suggests that ports like Korkarai, Arikamedu and Masulipattnam were thriving centers of trade during the Sangam age, dating from 300 BCE to 300 CE. One well-known example is a sailor from Sadhva community of Orissa from Tamralipti port who engaged in maritime trade with Southeast Asian kingdoms. He primarily exported corn and horses, which he had imported from Central Asia.
But how did these sailors navigate across the seas? According to historical records, the discovery of monsoon wind patterns is attributed to Hippalus in 45 to 47 AD, right?
Actually, Indian sailors had knowledge of monsoon winds, ocean currents, and celestial navigation long before Hippalus' discovery. Sheila Tripathi points out that early mariners of India developed their navigation technique based on careful observation of seasonal winds. They set sail from ports like Masulipattnam in November, utilizing the northeast monsoon winds also as trade winds to reach Southeast Asia. For their return journey, they relied on southwest monsoon in June, which carried them back to Indian coast.
That's fascinating. This shows they had a deep understanding of wind movements and climatic conditions. I have also read about sailors using celestial navigations. Is there any evidence of this practice on the eastern coast?
As historian B. Arunachalam describes in his book Chola Navigation Package, Indian sailors from Chola period used stars systematically. Mariners from the eastern coast used the pole star Dhruva to determine their position, the Canopus star Ottai Velli, visible in southern hemisphere as a guiding reference, the Mrigashira constellation to mark the beginning of their voyage.
That's impressive, but how did they choose their routes and ensure they didn't get lost?
Sailors mostly followed the coastline to stay on track. They also used trained birds to scout ahead.
Were there any major trade routes that sailors from the Coromandel coast followed?
Yes, according to B. Arunachalam, there were two primary routes. The southern route, sailors travelled along the India's east coast, reached Sri Lanka, then crossed the Bay of Bengal to reach the eastern coast of Sumatra. From Sumatra, they sailed further to Java and Bali, the northern route. This route took sailors along the Indian coastline toward Burma, modern-day Myanmar. From there, they crossed overland to Malay Peninsula. Some voyages also passed through the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which served as a key halting point.
That sounds like a long and difficult journey. How long did it typically take and who were their traveling companions?
Yes, it was a long voyage. The Chinese traveler Yi Jing recorded in his autobiography that it took about 30 days to sail from eastern coast of India to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Sailors weren't only travelers, they were also accompanied by the Buddhist monks who spread their religion, sculptors who carried Indian artistic influence to Southeast Asia, traders who exchanged valuable goods.
Since monks and traders traveled together, there must have been a rich exchange of goods and ideas. What were the major commodities exchanged between them?
The most significant items include beads and ceramics. Archaeologist K.P. Rao has studied the evidence of early trade and noted that northern black polished ware was found at sites like Nellore, Korkarai and Alankulam, indicating well-established trade routes. Roulated ware has been found in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Java, Bali, Vietnam, Sumatra and Malaysia, proving a strong cultural and commercial ties. Glass and semi-precious stones found at excavations in Sembiran and Ban Don Thapet in Thailand revealed glass similar to those made in Arikamedu, an important South Indian port.
That's incredible. So, maritime trade between India's eastern coast and Southeast Asia has archaeological evidence that dates back as early as 5th to 4th century BC. The trade was not only seasonal but also multidimensional, involving monks, traders, sculptures.
Yes, while these ancient trading methods have faded, they are still remembered through festivals along the eastern coast. For example, Bali Yatra is celebrated in Odisha during Kartika Purnima to honor the voyages of ancient sailors who traveled to Bali. A similar festival called Loi Kathrong is celebrated in Thailand, in Malaysia, and Bali in December, reflecting ancient India's cultural influence in Southeast Asia.
Are there any cultural practices today that reflect this maritime history? That's fascinating. Festivals help preserve our history, keeping ancient traditions alive. As we wrap up today's episode, this discussion has deepened my appreciation for the connections between the Coromandel Coast and Southeast Asia.
Absolutely, our maritime past is a testament to the enterprise and knowledge of our ancestors. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time for another exciting discussion on history and culture.